Hello and welcome to a webinar on accelerating new customer onboarding in financial services. My name is Oscar Tlele, and I am the Marketing Automation Specialist at TEKenable. Today's webinar will focus on how the process of using digital tools will simplify onboarding new clients, improve customer experience, and reduce costs for your business. Our speakers today will include Mohammed Zishan Khan, who's our Microsoft Platforms lead at TEKenable, Eamon King, who's the head of IT and director at Independent Trustee Company, and Cathal McCabe, who's the director at Opus Wealth Trust. Our speakers will be covering the following topics: introduction of Independent Trustee Company, which will be covered by Mr. Eamon King, who will also be covering the problem. Mr. Mohammed Khan will be covering the solution, and then Mr. Eamon King will come back to cover the benefits as well. And then Mohammed will take us through the Power Platform case study as well as demo the solution. And we'll have a pre-recorded customer testimonial by Mr. Cathal McCabe, who will also be on the call to take questions at the end of the webinar. I'll now hand over to our first speaker, Eamon King.
Thank you, Oscar. So I'll just give you a bit of a background on myself. I'm over 31 years experience in the IT industry. I started my career as a service engineer in retail banking in Siemens Nixdorf, and then progressed to a customer service relationship role with the Bank of Ireland and Irish Life and Permanent, as they were then known. I then moved to a retail chain in the fast-moving consumer goods sector, which involved developing solutions for onboarding product information onto a central system. So my role at ITC has been, to date, the most rewarding of all in my career. The Microsoft technologies we're using are leading edge and enabling ITC in our digital transformation roadmap. So who are ITC? ITC is an Irish-owned company and is a leading provider in invested solutions with 2 billion assets under administration, managing over 5,500 clients, schemes with a team of 70 employees working remotely. So the problem we faced when I joined the organization, our data was in silos spread across different technologies, file shares, Access database, SQL server, spreadsheets, and paper. Our application process was paper-based, and over 80% of the applications couldn't be processed on the first pass. They required a manual process involving posting the application back to the broker for correction, which resulted in potentially over 4 weeks delay before it came back to the new business administration team. In some instances, this process had to be repeated several times before all the errors were corrected. Other issues like illegible handwriting, missing data led to delays when onboarding onto our pension administration system, iTrust. And there was a concern amongst the onboarding team that broker adoption would be difficult and we would still have the manual paper process. With 1,000 applications per annum, the internal process required a lot of document creation. And there was no visibility on progress of applications for our brokers or clients, and even tracking the status of the application internally was difficult, despite the best efforts of the new business team. Hand you back to Mo.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. I'm going to take control now, Oscar. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah.
So my name is Mohammed Khan. I'm currently the Microsoft Platforms team lead in TEKenable. I basically am a cloud solution architect for Power Platform and Azure, as well as cybersecurity. And I was the solution architect for the solution when ITC came to us to help them solve the problem stated previously by Eamon. So we worked together on the project for many years, delivered successfully. Before I get into the actual details of the solution we delivered, I'd like to go through this concept of a digital feedback loop. Microsoft has come up with this, and it's actually quite interesting to understand. So most businesses we deal with are collecting digital signals. The same was for ITC. They were collecting digital signals in various systems, and that's the problem. It's data silos. So if you come across a business that has not undergone a digital transformation using a platform, they typically have a combination of ERPs, accounting systems, Excel sheets, access databases. These have been developed to solve particular problems in departments. But what that leads to is essentially creating data silos. And then that leads to not being able to effectively use the data. What the digital feedback loop kind of diagram is telling us is that if we are able to take the data or the digital signals that are produced during our engagement with our customers, whether that's emails, phone call records, documentation, and so on, reporting, the digital signals that our employees are producing as part of their day-to-day work, the digital signals that are coming out of our operations, whether it's data from systems that operations is producing, or the various Excel sheets that have organically grown, or if you're dealing with products that can offer telemetry. If you can ingest all of the data from these various systems into a single platform, you can then use that data plus intelligence by synthesizing the data, and that would give you insights that would improve your outcomes. You can use that data to identify, for example, you'll have a better and deeper relationship with your customer because you have a full 360-degree view of their customer. You understand what their relationship looks like, whether it's from the customer service point of view, whether it's from the sales point of view, and so on. You can improve your operations because you can identify then with the data any operational inefficiencies, any bottlenecks. You can reallocate resources to better improve the operations. The employees are much more empowered. They have access to all the information in a single platform, and they can obviously be more effective, and it's a lot more easier to train them. And similarly, if your products, whether they're digital products or whether they're products with IoT providing your telemetry, you could be a lot more proactive once you have the data at hand. And that's essentially the digital feedback loop. That data and intelligence circle in the center of the previous digital feedback loop is essentially, in our view, Dynamics 365. Dynamics 365 is a kind of a product brand. It contains lots of different modules, so whether it's marketing, sales, customer service, so on, finance, commerce. This is all built on top of the Power Platform. So Power Platform is a series of services. The core is Power Apps, which are, some of these are actually just Power Apps, and we can build Power Apps from scratch. We have Power BI for reporting. We have Power Automate and Cloud Flows and Desktop Flows for automations. We have virtual agents for bots, all built on top of the Common Data Service or the Dataverse. We can leverage the Microsoft Cognitive Services using AI Builder and connect to 200 plus other cloud services, both within the Microsoft ecosystem and generally popular services on the internet. And this is the modern, unified, intelligent, and adaptable interface that both ourselves and ITC felt would allow ITC to achieve their requirements. So, as Eamon had stated, some background on ITC. Here's what we saw when we started interaction with ITC. So, this is a picture that ITC themselves had actually done an analysis and identified all the data silos. So they're getting emails, they're getting phone call information, but it's in the PBX system. They have a physical mail coming in. They have an ITRA system that TEKenable built for them maybe 10 years before this project, where they were doing the asset or the pension management itself and the investment management. They had various document repositories in Laserfish. They were maintaining Sugar CRM for the contact management, and of course, lots of Excel sheets. The excuse me. The bottom line was that lots of systems gathering lots of information digitally, but they were not talking to each other. And there was a lot of reliance on on-prem infrastructure. That became a lot more obvious also post-COVID, as a lot of organizations found out. It was very difficult to pull together, let's say, a picture across the business for, let's say, if the board was interested in a report across a particular business line or across the whole business. It would be a lot of effort to pull the data from the various silos, or maybe almost impossible because there was so much manual effort required. Similarly, if an account manager wanted to look across the full picture of a single customer's portfolio, it was a lot of effort to produce that reporting. And just to kind of put a little bit of background context here, ITC do not sell directly to end customers. They work through a network of financial advisors or brokers. They could be one-man company operations, or they could be a firm with multiple brokers handling all the customer portfolios. What that means is that ITC kind of customer is in fact their broker network, and then the brokers bring in the end users who set up the pensions. So the way the interaction was working was the customer would walk in through the door into a broker's physical kind of brick and mortar office, and they would work with the financial advisor to identify a product possibly from the ITC line of business which would be suitable for them. Then there would be a paper form essentially filled in, and this is like in the financial services industry, you have to have a lot of KYC information. So this is multiple pages, maybe up to 5 to 10 pages of a paper form, filling in lots of information. The customer may or may not have all the information at hand. They may not have all the supporting documentation. So customers will go back, maybe they gather the information, send it in bits and pieces to the broker. The broker's filling this in, and obviously because there's no business rules embedded into, there's no validation in the form, they could fill it in exactly as they felt like it. So typos, errors, missing information that was required, contradiction in the information. And then they would send this in physically, and people would input this data. And that's where Imran Singh was taking a long time to work through all the errors to complete the data input into the iTrust pension management system. Also, the brokers would periodically ask for reports. And then, as we said, the data is spread across different systems. So after our kind of workshops with ITC, there was decisions taken to deploy a number of solutions. So there was an investment data management app. There was a customer portal, a mobile app, and a web version. And then within the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, we deployed a number of solutions across the ITC business teams. So we built a Power Apps or Power Pages portal. This would allow the onboarding of new customer applications by the financial advisors. So instead of sending in paper forms and with their inherent issues, they would actually fill the forms online on a portal. To ease the data entry, we did integrations with the Autoaddress.ie so that our codes and addresses were correctly formatted and pulled from the central database. We did an integration with the company's registration office APIs, the CRO, so that company employer information is correct. The trading addresses, the registered addresses. And to ease then quicken the process of signing and cross-signing all the various pages of the forms, we integrated with the DocuSign cloud. For the back office team in ITC, we built a custom model-driven app for new business application processing. Now, the process is long running, even with the efficiencies. It may take a couple of months to go through all the different AML, KYC, the other due diligence, working with the regulator to set up the various schemes, and then obviously in working with the customer to get the funds and the other assets transferred into the schemes that have been set up. So we did help them with integrations with an external company, Know Your Customer, who use the the information that's collected in the forms, as well as the proofs of address and proofs of identity, to use AI to do searches across a vast database of court cases, bankruptcy cases, and so on, to make sure that the customer that they're onboarding is okay to go ahead do business with. We also integrated with the back office iTrust system. So that system was built over a large number of years. It had lots of features, and you couldn't just swap it out with Dynamics. So the program intention was that some of the integrations in iTrust and some of the features in it would remain. So we had a hybrid deployment. We used SharePoint for the document management. Once the schemes and the actual pensions are set up, we have a series of tasks that have to happen regularly, quarterly, annually, biannually, for all the customers and their schemes and investments. So the customer service is a large part of what ITC do. So we give them a custom version of the Dynamics 365 customer service app to help them do their day-to-day. And this was integrated with Exchange Online. So we essentially, you get emails, service@itc.com. It automatically becomes a case. It is triaged and it's goes through the process. So no customer is left ignored, and SLAs are followed. We also enabled the compliance team to convert about 12 Excel sheets and Access databases into an app within the Power Platform. And of course, we aided the sales team to manage their pipeline with the brokers. So without further ado, so the architecture here at a very high level, just to give you a picture, we used various different first-party Microsoft Dynamics 365 apps like customer service, sales, marketing, and then we obviously built model-driven apps using the same good things that come with Dynamics, with all the Microsoft research in terms of the UI, the business process flows, the views, the forms, and so on, and the security. All of this was built on top of the Dataverse, which is the data storage, as well as the API integration layer, as well as the security layer. We used built-in dashboards within the platform, as well as Excel reporting where it was appropriate, and Power BI where we needed to do a lot more intelligence reporting. And the integrations with natively in the platform with Office 365 allow us to use documents stored in SharePoint against each of the records, and use Exchange for the incoming and outgoing emails related to the records that are being maintained. Where we reach the edges of the Microsoft no-code features, we needed to write a little bit of code, maybe for integration, for an API, maybe to do some complex calculations. And for that, we utilize Azure, which is very easily integrated into the Power Platform applications. Things like Azure Storage, Azure Service Bus for synchronizing the information with the iTrust, which was at that time sitting in a data center on-premise. And obviously the integrations I mentioned earlier with the KYC service, the auto address, DocuSign, and the CRO. So I'm just going to stop sharing the presentation and swivel over, and at a very 10,000-foot level, just show you some of the components we delivered, so that give you an idea of how all of that translates into what was delivered. So bear with me. So I pray to the gods of demos that this goes well. Let me know when you guys can see my screen. Yeah, Eamon, screen is there.
We can
Yes.
see.
Yeah, screen's there.
Excellent. So this is one of the major components that was delivered. This is the ITC Nexus broker portal. So the intended audience for this portal is a logged in user from the broker firm or financial advisor firm. Maybe multiple people from the same company logging in. Maybe one person is operating the whole business, so he can log in. He can see the full portfolio of the customers, all the applications that have been processed, are in progress of being processed, and have completed onboarding. They have access to a knowledge base where they can see fact sheets and other information related to the ITC products, as well as videos and training on how to use the actual portal itself. So the client portfolio means that both ITC and the brokers have the same kind of profile information about the customer, and the broker can modify modify the information as the customer maybe changes addresses or roles or companies and so on. It's quite easy to add in customers, and they become immediately available for the rest of your colleagues and ITC in the CRM. So this data goes straight into CRM, is actually surfaced from the core CRM. We did integration here with the auto address. So if I use a random address in Balbriggan, I can see that it's giving me all the possible variations of the address as I'm typing them in, and I think that's my address there. And as soon as I click on it, the address is filled in correctly. The R code is pulled in. So this is very important because people typically don't remember R codes top of their heads. And then I can fill in the rest of the information of the customer and complete the record. Similarly, if I clicked on new business application, it loads all the applications that me or my colleagues have, for example, in progress. I can also see applications that I submitted, but the back office raised some errors in them, and there's detail in there as to what those are. I can see the submitted applications, but I can see where they are in the back office processing status. So I see some of them are complete, some of them are at create iTrust record stage, some of them are awaiting transfer of funds. This answers a lot of the questions and calls that the broker would make, because they can exactly see what's happening in the back office, how long it's been taking to process those steps. So this is test data. Please don't mind the gaps there. It's just test data. And if I clicked on one of the applications, I have it preloaded here for sake of saving time. So this is a product called PRSA. So I can see that the application itself is got a progress bar. So these are typically 10 maybe 12 steps to complete an application. You can actually complete the application as a broker in multiple sessions. So if the customer has to walk away and they don't have the information at hand, we need to send you a document later, you can actually resume the application at a later date. So the progress is saved as you go along. You can have complex layouts as per the requirement of the forms, and you have validations and required field type validations, data type validations all built in. You can see the progress forward and backward through the application as well. So I'm just going to go to the next step after I submitted the personal details. Now I've got the employment details in here, and you can see there's a calculated field there. It's already validated. That's a valid PPS number. If I just modify that and go next, you see it's figured out that PPS number is not valid. So these are the types of things that were errors that were increasing the time to onboard the applications, because when data input was happening from the paper forms into iTrust, it would do these validations. So now we're doing them at source, and that's the essential savings. What happens when you reach the 100% mark, and I'm not going to go and waste your time to do that, is you complete all the fields and you submit proof of address and proof of identity documents, sign the legal declarations, and hit submit. Two things happen when you hit submit. This record becomes visible in the back office on a dashboard for the back office team in ITC, and in addition, it kicks off a integration with the DocuSign. So all this data that I've collected needs to go onto a template which was based on the original paper-based forms. So the data gets overlaid on top of that within the DocuSign cloud, and a workflow gets kicked off, because multiple people need to sign this in a order. So it's a signature chain. So the customer gets an email, and this is the form. I'm just going to show you that second. So again, test data, but these are how typically the forms look like. You can see there's multiple pages of the form. In this case, there's about 10 or 11 pages. So the data gets overlaid, and I just switch to that page there, and you can see it's injected. It's injected onto the correct location from the API, and then the customer gets an email. The email says, click on the link. They don't need an account in DocuSign. They don't need anything to register. They just get a link in the email with ITC branded, DocuSign branded email. They click on the link. This pops open in a browser, and they can see all the data, and they can see all the various pages that they need to countersign. The actual service prompts them to sign. Once they sign, I can just zoom in on the signature. They actually gets a unique code on it and a timestamp on it. And there might be multiple pages where I'm signing this. Once I've signed all the pages for my role as a customer, I click on complete, and then it sends a similar email over to the actual financial advisor, and then finally to a director in ITC. So everybody cross signs the actual application. Now, what happens at the end is when all three parties have signed the application, what the DocuSign Cloud does is it adds this certificate of completion, appends it to the end of the document pack that we sent originally with all the information of who signed when, where, from which IP address. All the signatures are there. And this is basically authentication that this document is authenticated. You can see even DocuSign, sorry, the PDF is picking up that there's a signature panel and one of the signatures has an issue. It's a test document, as I said, but this should not be saying this if it was a valid document. So this document with a certificate of completion is sent via an API back to Dynamics and is attached to the original application record in the back office application. So I'm going to switch over to the new business model-driven app application. So you can see here, this experience is common for all the Dynamics first-party apps as well as model-driven apps. This is called the unified interface, and I'm on an interactive dashboard. I can see all the applications at the various stages of processing. I can see them laid out in a visual, and I can use the visual even to, let's say, filter to show me only these 33 PRSC applications. I click on it, it's interactive. All the numbers and the tiles redrew, and they're not just numbers. I can actually click on the view and see the 7 applications and click on that to open the application itself. This is real-time dashboard. You start your day as a manager or as a person. This shows you exactly what you're only supposed to see as part of your team and what you've been processing on. Managers can see bottlenecks and allocate. So you can see there's a bunch of applications that are waiting at the create subdeed stage. So there's a bottleneck there. There's more resources need to be allocated to process these through. So with a very quick view with filters, you can actually see exactly what's going on in your business day to day, and you can pick up exactly where you left off. There's a lot more to this searching and so on, but I'm not going to obviously have time to do that. I just, for the sake of time, opened one application for PRSA. So you can see all the data that was collected in the portal is laid out now, but from the perspective not of the customer or the broker who's filling the application, but from the sequence of how it is processed by the back office and how they do their due diligence. So you can have complex layouts on the form with groupings that make sense to the back office users, with locked fields that they're not supposed to change, or there are flags that are tracking stuff, as well as data entry fields that they need to complete or fill in. You can have tabs, and tabs then can have more complex layouts. So here's all the transfers in that the customer is committed to the scheme at the time of the application processing, and then we've got rolled up calculated fields related to the transfer records. Right across the top there, other than giving you a sense of where you are, what application it is, who's it for, and so on, you have a guided business process flow. Now, this looks like a linear step-by-step, stages and then steps within stages. But in fact, this is like a very complex workflow, which you have a visual designer to design. It has branching logic, and it changes based on the selections the user does for key KPIs. But the key concept here is that everybody follows a couple of different scenarios through to processing an application for completion from the start to finish, and they don't have to be remembering what the steps are at each stage and which team deals with it and what they need to do for due diligence. And so instead of having this information and knowledge in people's heads, it is embedded into the application. So everybody follows pretty much the same paths through to completion. It provides you, because everybody's following the same process, the ability then to use dashboards and reports and rely on KPIs because people can't bypass the process. An example here is I need to do a triage for KYC, and I notice that there's a contradiction, a document that was submitted, let's say a P60, and what they typed in as their income. I go, there's an error. I need to ask the broker. As soon as I press yes, you can see the path to completion has changed. There's got an extra step there awaiting broker. And now you have to raise an error, and the portal, the broker will see an error in the application. They'll see a comment, and they might answer the comment or give you an updated document. And once you receive that, you can then complete the error and move forward. So that's very.
Sorry, Mo. Not to put pressure on you, but just your way. 5 minutes.
No worries, no worries. So this shows you that you can actually guide people through the process steps, and you know exactly where you left off an application through to completion. Similar to the actual new business team, we also gave a modified version, kind of purpose built for or modified for ITC's customer service processes. So an interactive dashboard for customer service, and there's not only one dashboard here. There's many dashboards targeting different teams, just to be aware of that. I'm just showing you one of the dashboards there for the customer service team. So they can see as a manager all the cases active by agent. They can see the types of cases, and they can exactly see where the case is in the case management system and go to the case itself. I just opened a case here to help us. So this is a customized version of the Microsoft case management form from customer service. So you can see it's got a custom business process flow. This particular case is related to moving funds that you manage bank accounts and investments on behalf of the customer, and you need to move funds from an account inwards or to another account. So immediately there's a optional movement of funds tab, which becomes enabled. And then we have some custom controls that we've written to help them to identify what beneficiary within the banking profile that applies to this particular movement. We've got another custom control here. So this is called a PCF control, Power Apps control framework. And essentially, this used to be an Excel sheet with 20 calculation scenarios or more for trying to determine whether there's enough liquidity position within the customer's accounts and investments to move these funds before it is sent for approval by a manager. So it works to pull in their bank account and investment details, and then makes a decision at the end, which is, can the investment be made or not, proceed or not with the movement of funds based on liquidity position. So again, instead of handling lots of Excel sheets for each time funds need to be moved for hundreds of schemes, it's all embedded, and the page that the director needs to sign is generated here by clicking a button. The PDF gets generated and attached to the case, so that the director can sign that if they want to keep a physical copy. And also SLAs are tracked against all of these. The other application that I mentioned was the compliance management application. So this is where the compliance team especially had lots of data silos. So they had these 10 or 12 logs, which are complaints from customers, conflict of interest, correspondence with the regulator, data access requests under GDPR, data breach under GDPR, errors when processing people's applications or schemes or customer service, legal proceedings currently, PEP and high risk, gifts and hospitality, fitness and probity. Now, compliance teams within financial services typically have similar logs that they maintain as part of their responsibility to the business under the financial regulation. So all of these were various Excel and Access databases that were kept in different parts of the on-prem file servers. So we converted them all into tables within the Dataverse and surfaced them through the app, and the actual manager can keep track of them on the dashboard. And only the compliance team has access to this app, and then within that, only the manager has access to some of these logs, which are very sensitive. So that's essentially, Oscar, you can restart the presentation. That's essentially a very quick walkthrough, the actual solutions that we gave to ITC. So maybe you can share the presentation.
Thank you for that presentation. It was very insightful. I wish we had more time. We would have loved to have another session where you give us a presentation of more information around just the platform. Just to continue with the webinar, Eamon, you can, I think this would be your slide.
Thanks, Oscar. So the solution, ITC Nexus, is a broker facing portal that enables brokers to add new clients and applications. And we also extended it then to allow the brokers see client schemes, values, valuations, etc. at a later point. And the portal features enable us to remove or add relevant questions depending on the previous selection. So no more missing data when an application arrives. It's flexible and integrated with new technologies to improve the user experience for our brokers and ITC staff. Integrations are seamless for the users and enable consistent data integrity across all systems. So the benefits, the internal benefits, so the 80-20 rule that I spoke of earlier, so that is reversed now for all errors. There's no longer the need to post the application Errors can be corrected by the new business team and the original application voided and resent to be signed by the relevant parties. The Dynamics solution provided us with the opportunity to develop Dynamics 365 skill sets to make changes to documents, add flows, add fields to capture new data without the need of a developer. So essentially, the Dynamics has empowered the ITC IT team to make changes. Delivery of simple CRs allow ITC team deliver these requests within days, weeks, thus providing a better user experience for our users. However, the more complicated changes are still completed by TEKenable developers. So the introduction of the business process flow allows the new business admin team monitor the progress of applications and share the workload among the team. At key points in the BPF, processes can be triggered, for example, emailing the broker automatically when all the transfers are collected. So there's several trigger points within that business process flow that Mo showed you that automatically email the brokers to give them additional information, so thus making us more proactive in our communications. The use of Power BI allowed us to join the various systems data together and build comprehensive data models. These models have proved instrumental in making informed business decisions. The solution has provided us with a perfect balance of low code, no code, and again, as I said earlier, empowering our IT team deploy CRs through the DevOps product. The benefits to our brokers and clients. So from the broker's perspective, they now have all the information they require online in one location 24/7. The BPFs allow them understand what stage an application is at and how long it is at a particular stage. Automatic notifications are sent at critical points in the process. Reminder features ensure that a broker client documents get signed faster. And during the COVID pandemic, the system allowed us to onboard applications without interruption. So our concern at the outset that broker adoption wouldn't happen was nullified. And adoption by our brokers was essentially is a complete success in the eyes of the business. There was also the environmental impact. So over the last 3 years, that corresponds to removing 3 cars from the road, skipping 32 loads of laundry, conserving 46 trees, eliminating 41 cans of trash, or saving 125,000 pages worth of paper. And then finally, just a small testimonial from Glenn Cochran, the head of business development and marketing. So basically, from Glenn's perspective, I'll read out his comments. So our ITC Nexus portal has been a game changer for us internally in ITC and for our brokers. Very quickly, we moved to 100% of applications being submitted online, meaning an application could be reviewed and processed within 24 hours of submission, and it could be more easily tracked throughout the process. Brokers can now see what stage of the new business process each application is at by logging into the portal. Then ITC Nexus also allows the broker to easily look up a scheme, cash balances, asset values, past scheme reports, and view transactions on scheme bank accounts. Having the system link in with our other internal systems ensured continuity of data and allows us to have an overall database that manages all existing and newly added client schemes in one place. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Shima, for that. Sorry, I forgot to mention that you can share, if you have any questions, you can share them in the chat, and we'll be answering them at the end of the session. Mohammed, you can.
I'll just let you run the slide, but I'll just explain this. So what we have just shown you in a very quick tour there is that digital feedback loop in action. for ITC. We undertook the digital transformation journey with them, identified all the common issues that most businesses face around the data silos, reporting and efficiencies and so on, and moving data and duplicate data inputs and so on. And we ingested all of that data and transitioned the users over to use a single common platform, Dynamics and Power Platform. We recognized that there were still on-prem systems like iTrust, which still had value. They were doing a good job. They were just not integrated. And we also brought in integrations with new services from other parties, non-Microsoft parties, but with API integrations. And all of those things have basically resulted, as Eamon in the last few slides has demonstrated, from the business's point of view, their engagement with their customers is improved, their operations are much more efficient, and the employees are empowered. And they have a much better view of the various products and how they're selling and so on with the MI that they can do with Power BI. So essentially, this is a digital transformation journey complete in a sense that we've achieved the goals of the initial problems. And I think, Eamon, you guys are still continuing to, as the regulatory environment changes, as your needs change and the business evolves, you are continually engaging with us to make further features to be added into the product, and also to improve and find more wins within the actual platform solution. So that's me, Oscar. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Our next, sorry, getting ahead of myself there. Our next speaker is Catherine McCabe, who will be explaining the benefits of the ITC platform in this pre-recorded video. As mentioned before, Catherine was the director at Opus Wealth Trust, made up of financial planners and tax advisors who provide expert advice to individuals and businesses.
My name is Colin McCabe, Managing Director of Opus Wealth Trust, a financial planning firm in Dublin. Our business has been using an IT system or client portal designed and built by TEKenable for one of our service providers, ITC, or independent trustee company. From our point of view, been using the portal over the last couple of years, it has had a positive impact in our business and our operations within our business. And this is probably best illustrated by just giving an example. So previously, when we would have been engaging with a client or onboarding a client, as is now known, we would have traditionally had to print out an application form, which could have been anything from 10 to 15 pages. Most of the institutions we would have been dealing with would have required a wet ink signature, which meant you might have had to either post the documents to a client and they'd have to post them back to you, or you could email them to a client and they would have to print them off and then post them back to you. All of this was relatively labor intensive because there was posting, printing, scanning, and probably wasn't good for the environment anyway, with the reams of paper that was circulating. What has now happened with the portal is that we can now upload or onboard a client within 10 to 15 minutes, and within a couple of hours of that, the client receives an email to their inbox with the application form. Which they can then scroll through and review, and if they're happy with all the details, they can then authorize the details and hit submit. And within a couple of hours of the particular structure policy that they're looking to set up can go live. So traditionally, we would have had a situation whereby onboarding a client with the old model would have taken a couple of weeks, and now that's been reduced to, in some cases, even to the same day, just by the use of technology. we haven't quantified the savings as a business, but the savings are there in terms of time, number one, and probably more importantly, there's cost savings in terms of you're utilizing less paper, you're not having to post out documents to clients and so on. And what's also been interesting from our point of view is that certainly over the past couple of years, clients nearly expect, I won't say demand, but they nearly expect businesses to have an IT solution within the product offering and a service. So we as a business, I suppose we don't want to stand out from the crowd for the wrong reasons. So it's reassuring from us that if we're using a company that has IT systems and IT offerings that's up to date and makes clients' lives a lot easier as well, it works very well for our business. But it also, it also helps us on the other side with clients, because it's clients are nearly now expecting it and are making conscientious decisions to engage with companies that do have technological solutions as part of their offering, which makes everyone's life a bit easier.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We are aware that some people could hear the video and some couldn't, and we'll just make efforts to ensure that you do get the link to the video so you can listen to it and just hear the testimonial. At this time, we will be taking questions. I do see that there is one question in the chat, and it's from Stefan, who's asking. We were asking. I didn't direct the question, so I'm just gonna pose the question and let Mohammed or Eamon just decide. So, what about qualified electronic signature within DocuSign?
I'll go first. So I don't 100% understand what your actual question is, Stefan. But if you're asking about a little bit more detail on the DocuSign, so essentially the DocuSign service itself takes the filled-in template and redirects all the messages in the correct order for the chain of people who need to sign and countersign the documents. They collect all the data and they provide the service from within their cloud for showing and prompting the user to sign in the correct location, collecting all the data, putting in the timestamps in the data, and sending that verified document with the certificate completion back to Dynamics with a reference to the original application, so we can attach it to the correct record. At the time, there was a question raised, and maybe that's what you're trying to ask, is whether that signature is legally recognized. Is it enough to satisfy regulators? And I would let Eamon answer that part, if that was what you were asking. Eamon?
Yeah, so basically I'd had several meetings with the DocuSign team, and to date they've had a few court challenges on electronic document signatures, and basically they haven't lost any of those court cases. So I think that's a testament to how strong the technology is and how it's recognized in the industry.
And I think another question that was posed to Eamon was, what else have you achieved in your roadmap with Dynamics?
Yeah, so like what we've gone through today is only the tip of the iceberg. Like we've done a lot more work on the customer service area over the last year and a half, or since the start of COVID, because that made us relook at that area and redefine it. We've redefined our SLAs, changed how the system looked. We've added our investment module onto the system as well, and integrated it into the client structure. We've gone down the road of implementing customer voice. So we traditionally did surveys once a year, but obviously if we had a problem with service, we didn't know about it, and it was a year and a half later by the time we understood if we had a problem with a client. So customer voice has proven it's a good sentiment, allowing us pick
so that's
up on
Dynamics
any issues.
365 customer voice for service, and it's built in and can be initiated from within Dynamics.
Correct. Yeah. So as a case is closed, it's depending on the subject type. It then will send a questionnaire to either the client or the broker, depending on who logged the original case. So obviously Power BI we spoke of, and we've built several data models. We're currently in the process of looking at Business Central, so to further integrate our processes. So this is part of the journey to connect all systems together, because we're currently using QuickBooks, and essentially now we want to link all and automate and streamline that process as well. So we've done an awful lot of work with the system, and also there's further changes to come. We've property line applications we want to put on the system. We've got other internal processes that don't quite fit into case management, so we're going through that review at the moment to see how we can better manage those processes within the confines of the system.
Thank you for that. I know Catho was also on the call, so if there's any questions for him, please can you pose them? I think I do have one for Catho, just with regards to his experience with the solution. Catho, what impact do you see the solution potentially having within the financial industry or the financial services space?
From our point of view, I suppose it creates it's far more efficient than what was there before. It just reduces a huge amount of time in the whole onboarding process. I think Eamon touched on it earlier on, where we said it might have took 4 weeks to simply kind of onboard a client between back and forth with paper. And we're seeing it internally here that we're reducing those times down to a matter of days. So if we onboarded a client today, by the end of the day, they could have an email link to DocuSign it, and it could be set up within a couple of days. So just efficiency and time savings. So instead of looking at something on an internal pipeline for 4 to 6 weeks, it's there for a matter of days. And that's within our particular industry, financial services across the board, a lot of companies have moved away, or are, if they're not moving away already from, I suppose, the traditional paper application processes, mainly because of time and cost savings. And I think Eamon touched on there as well with the whole DocuSign thing. There was a kind of a reluctance, I noticed, maybe 18 months ago, for companies to, even embrace DocuSign, but they're all, because legally was signatures accepted and so on, but they're pretty much all on board with it now. So we see the pace of change accelerating in it, that if you're not offering some sort of technological solution to clients and customers, you're nearly on the back foot, or certainly at a disadvantage.
Thank you for that. We do have one last question. The question is, do you do employee onboarding as well?
I'll answer the first part, and then I'll hand over to Eamon, if that's okay. So there's no HR aspect right now of the solution we've worked on for ITC. Those are not part of Dynamics 365. They're part of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, and it's got an HR module. So there's no automated employee onboarding. But I think maybe Eamon can speak to this, is because all the users, instead of having to use various, Excel and Access and Sugar CRM and different systems, and even the old iTrust system, they've pretty much swiveled over to essentially use one unified interface within the Power Platform and Dynamics. So I think, and Eamon, you can confirm if that's true or not, is it makes it a lot more easier to train new employees. Plus, the processes within your industry are complex, and because we have a guided business process flow through each of the journeys, whether it's the onboarding of the customer application or customer service cases of different types, and you have maybe 5 or 10 different types of cases, they're following the application itself is guiding the user, so it's probably improved the experience of training in new employees. But I'll let you speak to that, Eamon.
Yeah, I agree, Mo, that it definitely has helped. the processes we have there at the moment within the system, the integrations, we'll say for calculating liquidity, onboarding new investments, you know, approving transfer of funds, all that stuff has been made an awful lot easier. Like, I'm not saying it's 100% perfect. We're still looking for ways to make it better, but we're on that continuous improvement journey. So any opportunity we see to make improvements, we're doing that. And like, there's one other module that I forgot to mention about the technology we took on earlier, was the marketing module. Has been a game changer for us as well, because now instead of maintaining hundreds of spreadsheets and in various different places and having to update them manually, all that is done within the marketing module of Dynamics as well. So it's a complete solution, essentially, is what we have.
Thank you for that.
Oh,
thank you, Eamon, Mohammed, Cathal. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Great session. Thank you to our audience for taking the time to join our session. We will be having more of these sessions, and we'll be sharing content via our emails. But thank you very much for your time, and we hope you have a great remainder of your day.
Great. Thanks,
Thank you
Oscar.
everyone for taking
Thanks,
part.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you, Eamon.
Bye.